On his way to a crucial operation, a renowned surgeon is stopped by a beggar girl who shouts, "Don't go into the hospital, they'll frame you." Stunned, he enters the hospital, carrying a doubt he can't ignore. Minutes later, he discovers surgical flaws that could ruin his career. And someone clearly wanted that. Watch until the end to see the outcome. If this story interested you, subscribe to our channel, don't forget to like this video, and tell us which city you're watching. Us from We'll Keep Going. On his way to Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston, where he was competing for the position of Chief of Surgery, after years of dedication, technical excellence, and irrefutable results, Dr. Ethan Mitchell had no idea that this day would present him with two tests, the most difficult of his career and the most human of his life. In the parking lot, before even turning off the engine of his Mercedes, a figure across the street caught his attention. A 7-year-old girl, barefoot, dirty, with wide eyes, staring fixedly at him. In seconds, she ran across the street and, with a voice torn with desperation, shouted, "Don't go into the hospital, they're going to set you up." The scream paralyzed him, not because of the content, but because of its intensity. And because of the child's appearance, there was something about her that deeply unsettled him. Those almond-shaped brown eyes, the shape of her face, even the intonation of her speech. She was frighteningly similar to his ex-wife, Olivia, the woman he had lost years before in a childless divorce but with deep wounds. That visual coincidence stuck in his mind like an obsession. Ethan stepped out of his car, his brow furrowed with concern. He was a tall man with salt and pepper hair, always impeccably dressed in tailored suits beneath his white coat. Today was supposed to be his moment of triumph, the culmination of 15 years of sacrifice at Mass General. "What are you talking about?" he asked, kneeling down to the girl's level. The parking garage was nearly empty at this early hour, just a few cars belonging to the overnight staff preparing to head home. "Who's going to set me up?" The girl's eyes darted nervously around the parking structure. "Dr. Blackwell and Dr. Richardson," she whispered. "I heard them last night. They're going to mess up your tools during your big surgery today, so you'll make a mistake. They don't want you to be chief." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. Sarah Blackwell and Jennifer Richardson were indeed his main competitors for the chief of surgery position. But sabotage? It seemed too far-fetched, something from a television drama rather than the hallowed halls of one of America's most prestigious hospitals. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Lily," she replied, tugging at the frayed edges of her oversized sweatshirt. "Lily Foster. And how did you hear this, Lily?" The girl explained that she'd been hiding in the hospital's basement during the night and had overheard 2 female doctors plotting. She repeated details, names, and even the tone of the voices she'd heard. She described how they planned to tamper with a surgical instrument, a vascular clamp, creating a defect that would be nearly impossible to detect until it failed during the critical procedure. Initially, Ethan didn't believe her. Children had vivid imaginations, after all, but the precision of her details was unsettling. And those eyes, those hauntingly familiar eyes, made it impossible for him to simply dismiss her. "Where are your parents, Lily?" he asked, checking his watch. He still had 2 hours before the scheduled surgery, a complex aortic valve replacement on the hospital's most influential board member. "My mum's gone," Lily said, her voice small. "She used to work here, at the hospital." "And your father?" Lily shrugged, looking away. "Never met him." Ethan felt a strange tug in his chest. "Listen, Lily, I appreciate the warning, I really do, but I need to get inside. How about I find someone to help you?" "No!" Lily grabbed his arm with surprising strength. "No social workers. They'll just put me back in the system. Please, Dr. Mitchell, you have to believe me. They're waiting for you to mess up." Ethan hesitated. His rational mind told him to call security or child services, but something deeper, something he couldn't quite name, made him reconsider. He thought back to his divorce from Olivia 7 years ago. She had disappeared for nearly 6 months before finalizing their separation. When she returned, she was different, colder, more distant. They had never had children, though not for lack of trying. It had been one of the many fractures in their relationship. "Okay," he finally said, I won't call anyone yet, but you can't stay out here. It's not safe. Ethan made a decision he knew could jeopardize his career. He brought Lily into the hospital through a side entrance using his access card to bypass the main reception area. He took her to his private office on the surgical floor, where he kept a small couch for those nights when he was too exhausted to drive home. "Stay here," he instructed, giving her a granola bar from his desk drawer and a bottle of water. "Lock the door behind me. Don't let anyone in except me. I'm going to check on my surgical instruments and my team. If what you're saying is true..." He didn't finish the sentence. It was too outlandish to even consider. Yet, as he left his office and headed toward the surgical prep area, Ethan found himself on high alert, scanning the faces of colleagues he'd worked alongside for years, wondering if they might be harboring secret resentments or ambitions that could lead to sabotage. The first surprise came during preparation. The surgical team had been partially altered. The original anesthesiologist had been replaced with Dr. Marcus Webb, a close friend of Dr. Richardson. Several surgical assistants weren't on the original roster. The second came when, while reviewing the instruments, he found a vascular clamp with a slightly damaged tip, a subtle flaw, but potentially fatal if it went unnoticed. Ethan's heart raced. The girl had been right. He examined the clamp under magnification and saw that the damage was almost imperceptible, a tiny nick that would cause the clamp to fail during the procedure, potentially causing a catastrophic bleed. It would have appeared to be a tragic accident, a rare equipment failure that no one could have anticipated, but it would have ended his career. He quietly replaced the clamp and proceeded with his pre-surgical routine, hyper-aware that he was being watched. Dr. Richardson entered the prep room, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "Big day, Ethan," she said. "Nervous?" "Not at all," he replied, meeting her gaze steadily, "just focused." As she left, Ethan pulled his phone from his pocket and took photos of the damaged clamp, carefully documenting the evidence. Then he sent a quick text to his friend, in hospital security, asking for footage of the surgical prep room from the previous night. The surgery proceeded flawlessly. Ethan performed with precision and confidence, aware that the hospital board members were observing from the gallery. By the time he closed the patient's chest, he knew he had secured his position as the next chief of surgery, at least based on merit. But the politics of the situation had become far more complicated. Throughout the procedure, his thoughts kept returning to Lily. Who was she? How did she know about the sabotage? And why did she look so much like Olivia? After completing his post-operative notes, Ethan rushed back to his office, half expecting to find it empty. But Lily was still there, curled up on his couch, leafing through a medical journal with surprising interest. "You were right," he said quietly, closing the door behind him. "Someone tampered with my instruments." Lily nodded, unsurprised. "I told you. Did you fix it?" "Yes, but now I need to understand what's happening here and who you really are." The girl set down the journal and reached for her tattered backpack. From it, she pulled an old flip phone. "I recorded them," she said. "I always record bad people. That's what Mom taught me to do. Collect evidence." Ethan took the phone, his hand trembling slightly. "Your mother, what was her name?" Lily's eyes, those familiar brown eyes, met his. Her name was Olivia Foster. She used to be Olivia Mitchell before she ran away. Ethan felt the world tilt beneath his feet. Olivia. His Olivia. The name hit him like a physical blow. He sank into his desk chair, staring at the child before him with new eyes. The resemblance that had struck him so powerfully now made a terrible kind of sense. "When were you born, Lily?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "October 12th, she replied. "I'm 7. 7 years ago." Right when Olivia had disappeared for those 6 months. The timeline fit perfectly. Ethan ran a hand through his hair, trying to process the implications. Had Olivia been pregnant when she left him? Had she hidden her pregnancy, given birth in secret, and then returned to finalize their divorce without ever telling him he had a daughter? "Where is your mother now?" he asked, dreading the answer. Lily's face clouded. "She got sick, really sick. She's in a long-term care facility in Vermont." She can't talk or move much anymore. The hospital bills got too expensive and we lost our apartment. She hesitated. I've been staying different places. You've been homeless, Ethan said, not as a question. Lily nodded, embarrassed. Sometimes I stay at the community shelter on Hampshire Street, but they ask too many questions. I don't want to go back to foster care. The last family was mean. Ethan felt a surge of protective anger. If this child was indeed his daughter, and he was becoming increasingly convinced she was, then she had been suffering while he lived in his comfortable Beacon Hill townhouse, oblivious to her existence. How did you know I would be at the hospital today? This surgery was important. Lily pulled out a crumpled newspaper clipping from her backpack. It was a feature article about Mass General's upcoming selection for Chief of Surgery, with Ethan's photo prominently displayed. Mom kept pictures of you, and when I saw this in the trash behind the shelter, I recognized you. I've been watching the hospital for 3 days, waiting to see you. And during that time, you overheard Doctors Blackwell and Richardson planning to sabotage my surgery? They didn't know I was there, Lily explained. I'm good at hiding. Mom taught me how to be invisible when I need to be. I was sleeping in the maintenance closet near the doctor's lounge. That's when I heard them talking about making sure you'd fail during your big surgery. Ethan stood up, pacing the small office. His mind was racing with possibilities, implications, and decisions that needed to be made immediately. He needed proof of the sabotage beyond a damaged clamp that he'd already replaced. He needed to understand why his colleagues would resort to such dangerous tactics, and he needed to determine with absolute certainty whether Lily was his biological daughter. I need to get you somewhere safe, he said finally. Then I need to deal with what happened today. Can you trust me to help you, Lily? The girl studied him for a long moment, her eyes, Olivia's eyes, wise beyond her years. Mum said you were a good man. That's why she never told you about me. She said you would have given up everything for us, and she couldn't let you do that. Ethan felt a lump form in his throat. That sounded like Olivia, making decisions for both of them, believing she knew what was best. It had been one of the fundamental issues in their marriage. She was wrong, he said softly. I deserve to know. You deserve to have a father. He checked his watch. It was nearly 6 p.m. The hospital corridors would be quieter now, as the shift changed to evening staff. It was the perfect time to move Lily without attracting attention. I'm going to take you to my home, he decided. We'll figure everything out from there. But first, let me see that recording. Lily handed him the old flip phone. The recording quality was poor, but the voices were unmistakable. Dr. Sarah Blackwell and Dr. Jennifer Richardson discussing how to ensure Ethan's failure during the surgery by tampering with a specific clamp that would only fail under pressure at a critical moment. They mentioned a third person, someone they referred to only as the assistant director, who had approved their plan. Ethan's blood ran cold. The assistant director could only be Dr. William Hayes, the hospital's assistant medical director, and the person responsible for overseeing the chief of surgery selection process. If Hayes was involved, this conspiracy ran deeper than professional jealousy. It was institutional corruption. We need to make a copy of this, Ethan said, connecting the phone to his computer. It's evidence. After securing the audio file, Ethan carefully guided Lily through the hospital's back corridors and stairwells, avoiding the main areas where they might be seen together. They made it to his car without incident, and 30 minutes later, they arrived at his Beacon Hill townhouse. Lily stared up at the elegant brownstone with wide eyes. You live here? Alone? Yes, Ethan replied, feeling a sudden pang of loneliness as he saw his home through her eyes. It's too big for one person. Really? I just never got around to downsizing after the divorce. Inside, the townhouse was immaculately decorated but impersonal, more like a high-end hotel suite than a home. The refrigerator contained little besides coffee creamer and takeout containers. Ethan realized, with a sense of embarrassment, how empty his personal life had become as he'd focused exclusively on his career. Are you hungry? He asked, opening kitchen cabinets that revealed a sad collection of protein bars and instant soup. I could eat, Lily said diplomatically. Ethan ordered pizza delivery, and while they waited, he showed Lily to the guest bedroom. It was pristine and untouched, never having hosted an actual guest. Lily set her worn backpack down carefully on the plush white comforter, looking out of place amid the luxury. "Tomorrow we'll get you some new clothes," Ethan promised, "and I'll need to make some calls about your mother. I want to understand her condition and what kind of care she's receiving." "They said she had a rare type of neurological disease," Lily explained. "It got worse really fast. One day she was fine, and then she started dropping things and forgetting words. After a few months, she couldn't take care of me anymore." The pizza arrived, and they ate in the kitchen, Ethan watching in dismay as Lily devoured slice after slice with the intensity of someone who hadn't had a proper meal in days. "When was the last time you ate?" he asked gently. Lily shrugged. "Yesterday, maybe? The shelter gives breakfast, but I was watching the hospital all day." After dinner, Ethan set Lily up with a bath and found an old Harvard Medical School t-shirt she could use as a nightgown. Once she was settled in the guest room, he retreated to his study to examine the evidence they had gathered. The recording clearly implicated Drs. Blackwell and Richardson, as well as the mysterious assistant director. The photos of the damaged clamp provided physical evidence of the sabotage, but Ethan knew that going public with these accusations would create a scandal that could damage the hospital's reputation and potentially his own career, even if he was the victim. He needed more evidence, and he needed allies. He picked up his phone and called the one person at Mass General he trusted implicitly, Dr. Maya Rodriguez, the hospital's head of pathology and his closest friend for the past decade. "Maya, I need your help," he said when she answered. "Something happened today that I can't explain over the phone. Can you come to my place? It's important." "I'll be there in 20 minutes, she replied without hesitation. While waiting for Maya, Ethan quietly checked on Lily. She was fast asleep, curled into a tight ball at the edge of the large bed, as if afraid to take up too much space. The sight made his chest ache. If she truly was his daughter, he had missed 7 years of her life. 7 years that could never be reclaimed. He gently pulled the blanket over her shoulders and closed the door. Then he went to his home office and found a sealed envelope in his desk drawer. Inside was a strand of Olivia's hair, preserved in the small plastic bag, a strange memento he had kept from their last day together, when a single long dark hair had clung to his sleeve as she walked out of his life. At the time, he'd found himself unable to discard it, that final physical trace of the woman he had loved. Now that sentimental gesture might provide the DNA evidence he needed to confirm his suspicion. The doorbell rang, and Ethan went to greet Maya. In her early 40s, Dr. Maya Rodriguez was a brilliant pathologist with a no-nonsense attitude and an unwavering moral compass. If anyone could help him navigate this complex situation, it was her. "This better be good, Ethan," she said, as she entered, shrugging off her coat. "I was halfway through a glass of wine and the new episode of—" She stopped abruptly, sensing his tension. "What's wrong?" "Everything," he replied, leading her to his study. "Everything is wrong, and I need your help to make it right." Ethan explained everything to Maya, the warning from Lily, the sabotaged clamp, the recording implicating his colleagues, and the shocking possibility that the child sleeping in his guest room might be his biological daughter. Maya listened without interruption, her expression shifting from skepticism to alarm to resolve. "This is a lot," she said finally, when he had finished. "Let me get this straight. You believe Blackwell and Richardson, with Hayes's blessing, tried to sabotage your surgery to keep you from becoming chief of surgery. And this child, who might be your daughter with Olivia, somehow discovered their plan and warned you?" "I know how it sounds," Ethan admitted, "but I have the evidence." He played the recording for Maya and showed her the photos of the damaged clamp. Maya examined the images carefully. "The damage is subtle but deliberate," she confirmed. "Someone with surgical knowledge did this. It would have failed catastrophically at the exact moment when you were clamping the aorta. The patient would have bled out within seconds." "Exactly," Ethan said grimly. "It would have looked like a tragic accident." My career would be over and one of them would become chief of surgery. But why would Hayes be involved? He's always seemed to favor you for the position. I don't know, Ethan admitted. That's what I need to find out, and I need to confirm whether Lily is actually my daughter. Maya nodded, immediately understanding the implications. You need a DNA test. I can help with that. Bring me samples tomorrow, yours and the girls. I'll run them myself off the books. Thank you, Ethan said, relieved. And there's one more thing. He showed her the envelope with Olivia's hair. Can you compare Lily's DNA to this as well? Just to be certain. I can, but Ethan... Maya hesitated. If Lily is your daughter, what are you going to do? Her mother is incapacitated, and she's been living on the streets. There are legal procedures, social services. I'll figure it out, he interrupted. One step at a time. First, I need to know the truth. Then I'll decide how to move forward both with Lily and with this conspiracy at the hospital. All right, Maya agreed, but be careful. If what you're saying is true, these people were willing to risk a patient's life to further their careers. They won't hesitate to destroy you if they realize you know what they did. After Maya left, Ethan checked on Lily once more before retiring to his bedroom. Sleep eluded him as his mind raced with questions and possibilities. By dawn, he had made a decision. He would take a personal day, something he hadn't done in years, to focus on investigating both the hospital conspiracy and Lily's situation. He called the hospital administrator and explained that he needed a day to recover from the complex surgery. It wasn't entirely a lie. The procedure had been mentally exhausting, especially given the circumstances. Then he contacted a private investigator he had previously hired during a medical malpractice case, requesting an urgent meeting. When Lily woke, she found Ethan in the kitchen attempting to make pancakes, a skill he clearly hadn't mastered. The batter was too thin, and the results resembled flat, misshapen discs rather than fluffy pancakes. Sorry, he said sheepishly when he noticed her watching him. I don't cook much. I can help, Lily offered. Mom taught me. She said everyone should know how to make breakfast. Together, they salvaged the pancake batter, with Lily instructing Ethan on the proper consistency and cooking technique. It was a strangely domestic scene, one that Ethan had never imagined experiencing. As they ate, he explained his plan for the day. We need to learn more about what's happening at the hospital, he said, and I need to verify some things about your mother. I've arranged for a friend to come stay with you while I meet with someone who can help us. I don't need a babysitter, Lily protested. I've been taking care of myself for months. I know you have, Ethan said gently, and that's not right. No child should have to do that. But Maya isn't coming to babysit. She's coming to help us confirm something important. That I'm your daughter, Lily said matter-of-factly. Ethan nearly choked on his coffee. You know about that? Lily nodded. Mum told me my father was a brilliant doctor who would change the world if he wasn't distracted by a family. She showed me your picture sometimes. She said I have your forehead and your hands. She held up her hands, examining them. I think she was right about the hands. See how the fingers are long but the palms are square. Ethan looked at his own hands, then at Lily's. The resemblance was undeniable. Why didn't you tell me right? Tell me who you were. Mom said never to tell anyone important stuff right away, Lily explained. She said you have to make sure they're trustworthy first. I had to make sure you weren't like those other doctors, the bad ones. Before Ethan could respond, the doorbell rang. Maya had arrived, bearing a small medical kit for collecting DNA samples. She introduced herself to Lily with a warm smile. Dr. Mitchell tells me you're quite the detective, she said. Finding out about that damaged surgical tool probably saved a patient's life. Lily shrugged, suddenly shy. I just told him what I heard. Maya explained the cheek swab procedure to Lily, who submitted to it without complaint. Ethan did the same, and Maya carefully labeled both samples. I'll have results by tomorrow, she promised, preliminary ones at least. While Maya stayed with Lily, Ethan met with Frank Dawson, the private investigator, at a coffee shop several blocks away. Dawson was a former Boston police detective with a network of contacts throughout the city and a reputation for discretion. I need information on two separate matters, Ethan explained. First, I need to know about a patient at a long-term care facility in Vermont. Olivia Foster, formerly Olivia Mitchell, my ex-wife. I need to understand her medical condition, how long she's been there, and who's been paying for her care, or not paying, as the case may be. Dawson nodded, making notes. And the second matter? I need background on three doctors at Mass General: Dr. Sarah Blackwell, Dr. Jennifer Richardson, and Dr. William Hayes, the Assistant Medical Director. Specifically, I need to know about any connections between them, any financial arrangements, any pressure points or vulnerabilities. Ethan hesitated. I have reason to believe they conspired to sabotage a surgery I performed yesterday. Dawson's eyebrows shot up. That's a serious accusation, Doctor. I know. That's why I need concrete evidence beyond what I already have. What's your timeline? As soon as possible. Hours, not days. Dawson nodded. I'll get on it right away. You'll have preliminary information by this evening. When Ethan returned home, he found Maya and Lily hunched over a chessboard in the living room. To his surprise, Lily appeared to be winning. She's a natural strategist, Maya commented as Ethan entered. And she knows her way around a hospital remarkably, well for a 7-year-old. Mom used to take me to work with her, Lily explained, moving her bishop to capture Maya's knight. I would read medical books in the break room while she was on shift. What exactly did your mother do at the hospital, Lily? Ethan asked, realizing he still didn't know this crucial detail. She was a medical records specialist, Lily replied. She organized all the patient files and made sure the doctors had the right information. She was really good at it. Until... Her voice trailed off. Until what? Ethan prompted gently. Until she tried to report something bad that a doctor did, Lily said, her focus seemingly on the chess game but her voice tense. She found a mistake in some records, a big mistake. But when she reported it, they fired her instead of fixing it. That's when she got sick, right after losing her job. Ethan and Maya exchanged glances. Do you know which doctor made the mistake? Maya asked. Lily nodded. Dr. Hayes. Mom said he changed some test results to make it look like a treatment was working when it wasn't. She had proof, but nobody would listen to her. Ethan felt a chill run through him. This new information potentially explained Hayes' involvement in the conspiracy against him. If Olivia had threatened Hayes' reputation or career, and Hayes somehow discovered that Lily was Ethan's daughter, he might fear that Ethan would eventually learn about his misconduct through Olivia or Lily. When did this happen, Lily? He asked. About 2 years ago, she replied. That's when we had to move to the smaller apartment and Mom started getting sick. Then she got really sick really fast, and they took her to the special hospital in Vermont. The pieces were beginning to fall into place. But Ethan needed more information about Olivia's condition, about Hayes' misconduct, and about the true nature of the conspiracy against him, and he needed to decide what to do about Lily. If she truly was his daughter, he couldn't allow her to return to the streets or to foster care. But gaining legal custody would be complicated, especially given the unusual circumstances. His phone buzzed with a text from Dawson. Found information on all targets. Meeting at 8 p.m., same location. I need to go out again this evening, Ethan told Maya. Can you stay with Lily a bit longer? Actually, Maya said, I think Lily should come with us to the hospital tomorrow, discreetly. She knows the layout better than we do, and she might recognize people or details we would miss. Is that safe? Ethan asked, concerned. Safer than leaving her alone or with someone who doesn't understand the situation, Maya argued. Besides, I've been thinking about your recording. If Hayes is involved, we need to understand why. Lily just gave us a potential motive, but we need evidence. The hospital's digital record system keeps logs of all access and changes. If Hayes altered medical records as Lily claims, there would be a digital trail. And you can access those logs? As head of pathology, I have high-level access to the system. Not enough to change records, but enough to view access logs and audit trails. If we bring Lily with us tomorrow, I can work on the digital evidence while you continue your normal routine to avoid suspicion. Lily can stay in my office, it's private and secure. Ethan considered the plan. It was risky bringing Lily back to the hospital, but Maya was right. Leaving her alone was potentially more dangerous. And if Hayes had been involved in wrongdoing, that affected Olivia. That might be the key to understanding the current conspiracy. All right, he agreed reluctantly, but we'll need to be extremely careful if anyone realizes who Lily is or why she's there. They won't, Maya assured him. Trust me, Ethan, we're going to figure this out. As Maya and Lily returned to their chess game, Ethan went to his study to prepare for his evening meeting with Dawson. He had a growing sense that what had initially seemed like a simple case of professional sabotage was actually part of something much larger and more sinister at Mass General, something that had already harmed Olivia and, by extension, Lily. And he was determined to uncover the truth, whatever the cost. Ethan's meeting with Frank Dawson that evening yielded disturbing revelations. The private investigator had worked with remarkable efficiency, leveraging his contacts in healthcare administration and law enforcement to piece together a troubling picture. "Let's start with your ex-wife," Dawson said, sliding a folder across the cafe table. "Olivia Foster, formerly Mitchell, has been at Green Mountain Care Center in Burlington, Vermont for the past 16 months. Her diagnosis is a rare form of rapidly progressive neurological disease, specifically Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. It's terminal, Dr. Mitchell. Average survival time from onset is about 14 months. Ethan felt as though he'd been punched in the stomach. "Terminal?" he whispered. How much time does she have left?" "According to my source at the facility, she's in the final stages, completely non-responsive. They don't expect her to last more than a few weeks." Ethan closed his eyes, absorbing the shock. Despite their divorce, he had never stopped caring about Olivia. And now to learn that she was dying, had been dying for months while their daughter struggled alone, filled him with grief and guilt. "The interesting part," Dawson continued, "is the financial situation. Her care was initially covered by comprehensive health insurance from a policy that doesn't match her employment history. Premium payments were made by an offshore account that I haven't been able to trace yet. But 3 months ago, those payments stopped. The facility has been providing care on a charitable basis since then, but they're reaching their limit." "And what about the doctors at Mass General?" Dawson opened a second folder. "This is where things get interesting. Dr. Sarah Blackwell and Dr. Jennifer Richardson have a connection that goes beyond professional collegiality. They were roommates at Johns Hopkins during residency, and they're co-investors in several medical technology startups. One of those startups, Neurovance Therapeutics, received a substantial grant from Mass General 2 years ago for an experimental treatment protocol." "Let me guess," Ethan said. "The grant was approved by Dr. Hayes." "Exactly. Hayes chairs the committee that oversees research funding. But here's where it gets concerning. Neurovance's primary treatment protocol, a novel approach to neurological diseases, has had mixed results at best. The official reports show promising outcomes, but I found internal documents suggesting data manipulation to secure continued funding." Ethan leaned forward. "And that's what Olivia discovered? Falsified research data?" "It appears so. My contact in hospital administration confirmed that Olivia Foster was terminated from her position in medical records after filing a formal complaint about irregularities in the Neurovance clinical trial documentation. The complaint was dismissed as unfounded by Dr. Hayes personally. And shortly after that, she developed a rare neurological disease," Ethan said slowly, a horrible suspicion forming in his mind. Dawson nodded grimly. "The timing is suspicious, to say the least, especially considering that Neurovance's treatment protocol involves experimental drug therapies for conditions similar to Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease." Ethan's blood ran cold. "Are you suggesting that Olivia's condition wasn't natural? That she was deliberately exposed to something that caused her disease?" "I can't prove it," Dawson cautioned, "but the circumstantial evidence is compelling. Olivia discovers irregularities in Hayes's pet research project, threatens to expose them, and suddenly develops a rare neurological condition directly related to the area of research she was questioning. Then she's provided with exceptional healthcare coverage from an anonymous source, effectively silencing her until the money runs out. And now, years later, Hayes and his associates try to sabotage my surgery when I'm about to become chief of surgery, Ethan concluded, because they're afraid I might learn about what happened to Olivia and continue her investigation. It's a theory that fits the facts, Dawson agreed, but proving it will be extraordinarily difficult. We're talking about powerful people with significant resources and institutional protection. Ethan sat back, his mind racing. I need to see Olivia. Even if she can't communicate, I need to be there, and I need access to her medical records. I anticipated that, Dawson said, sliding a third folder across the table. I've arranged clearance for you to visit Green Mountain Care Center tomorrow as a consulting physician. Your credentials will get you access to her charts. But Dr. Mitchell, if what we suspect is true, these people won't hesitate to protect themselves. You and the girl could be in serious danger. I understand, Ethan said grimly. I'll be careful. When Ethan returned home, he found Maya still there, having ordered dinner for herself and Lily. The girl was asleep on the couch, a half-eaten slice of pizza abandoned on the coffee table. She tried to wait up for you, Maya explained softly, but it's been an exhausting day for her. Ethan nodded, gently lifting Lily from the couch. She stirred slightly, but didn't wake as he carried her to the guest bedroom and tucked her in. When he returned to the living room, Maya was cleaning up the dinner remnants. I need to change our plans, he told her, explaining what he had learned from Dawson. I have to go to Vermont tomorrow to see Olivia. I can't bring Lily. It would be too traumatic for her to see her mother in that condition. Can you take her to the hospital as planned and continue the investigation there? Maya's expression was grave. Of course. But Ethan, if what Dawson says is true, this goes far beyond professional sabotage. We're talking about medical experimentation, falsification of research data, and potentially even intentional harm to a whistleblower. This could bring down the entire leadership structure at Mass General. I know, Ethan said heavily. That's why we need incontrovertible evidence. If we go public with accusations this serious without absolute proof, we'll be destroyed, professionally and personally. What about the DNA test? Maya asked. Do you still want me to run it? Yes. I need to know with certainty that Lily is my daughter before I make any legal moves to secure custody, especially now that I know Olivia's condition is terminal. The next morning, Ethan explained to Lily that he needed to travel to Vermont on urgent business, but that she would spend the day with Maya at the hospital. He didn't mention that he was going to see her mother, unsure how to broach such a painful subject without knowing exactly what he would find at the care facility. Maya's going to help us find more evidence about what Dr. Hayes did, he told her. You'll need to stay in her office and not wander around the hospital, okay? It's important that no one sees you. I understand, Lily said solemnly. I'm good at being invisible when I need to be. Ethan hesitated, then knelt down to her level. Lily, I want you to know that no matter what happens, you're not alone anymore. I'm going to make sure you're safe and cared for. I promise. The tee-hee. Girl studied his face with those intelligent brown eyes. Olivia's eyes. Are you saying that because you think you're my dad? I'm saying it because it's the right thing to do, Ethan replied. But yes, I believe I am your father, and I'm sorry I haven't been there for you until now. Lily considered this, then nodded once as if confirming a hypothesis. Mum said you would be a good dad. She said you always wanted to help people even when it was hard. Ethan felt a lump in his throat. Your mum was right about a lot of things, he managed to say. After dropping Lily off with Maya at the hospital's pathology department, using a service entrance to avoid being seen, Ethan began the 4-hour drive to Burlington, Vermont. His mind was a tumult of questions and theories, but one thought remained constant. If Olivia had been harmed as part of a cover-up, he would not rest until those responsible were held accountable. Meanwhile, at Mass General, Maya settled Lily in her private office with books and a tablet loaded with educational games. I need to run some tests and check some records, she explained. Stay here. Keep the door locked and don't let anyone in except me. Understand?" Lily nodded, already engrossed in a digital anatomy application on the tablet. Maya smiled. The girl really was Ethan's daughter, fascinated by medical science even at such a young age. Maya's first task was to run the DNA comparison between Ethan's sample, Lily's sample, and the strand of Olivia's hair. She had access to advanced genetic testing equipment in her lab, and as head of pathology, she could prioritize the analysis without raising questions. Within hours, she had a preliminary result, a 99.9% probability that Ethan was Lily's biological father, and confirmation that the hair sample matched Lily's maternal DNA markers. Her second task was more challenging, accessing the hospital's digital records system to find evidence of the alterations Olivia had allegedly discovered. Maya's position gave her high-level access, but she knew that any unusual queries might be flagged by the system administrators, who potentially reported to Hayes. She began by reviewing the Neurovance clinical trial documentation carefully, noting discrepancies and patterns that suggested data manipulation. The original trial had involved 32 patients with early-stage neurological disorders. According to the published results, 28 had shown improvement or stabilization, an impressive success rate. But as Maya dug deeper, she found troubling inconsistencies in the raw data. Patient outcome measures had been selectively reported, with negative results minimized or excluded entirely. More disturbing was the fact that 6 patients had been removed from the trial due to unrelated complications, a suspiciously high number. When Maya attempted to access the detailed medical records for those 6 patients, she found their files restricted under additional security protocols. She was so focused on her investigation that she almost missed the notification on her computer, an alert that someone had used her credentials to access restricted files. But she hadn't accessed any restricted files yet. "Someone's monitoring my activity," she realized, with alarm. She immediately logged out of the system and called Ethan, but the call went straight to voicemail. He was likely in an area with poor reception during his drive to Vermont. Maya returned to her office, her heart racing. To her horror, the door was unlocked and Lily was gone. The tablet lay abandoned on the desk, still open to the anatomy application. There was no sign of struggle, but a sticky note had been placed on Maya's keyboard. "Dr. Rodriguez, please come to conference room 3B immediately regarding your records access. Bring your ID and access cards." It was a trap, Maya realized. Someone had noticed her investigating the Neurovance records and had used the opportunity to lure her away from her office and from Lily. But where was the girl now? Had she wandered, off on her own, or had someone taken her? Maya forced herself to think logically. If Lily had left voluntarily, she would have taken her backpack, which still sat beside the desk. If someone had forcibly removed her, there would likely be signs of a struggle. The most probable scenario was that someone had come to the office, perhaps claiming to be sent by Maya or Ethan, and Lily had gone with them willingly. She needed help, but she couldn't risk approaching hospital security, not when the conspiracy potentially involved the assistant medical director. Instead, she called Frank Dawson, whose number Ethan had given her as an emergency contact. "The girl is missing," she said without preamble when Dawson answered. "Someone took her from my office while I was accessing the Neurovance files, and I think they know I'm investigating." "Stay where you are," Dawson instructed. "I'm 10 minutes from Mass General. Don't trust anyone in the hospital administration." While waiting for Dawson, Maya tried Ethan again. This time he answered. "Ethan," she said, struggling to keep her voice steady. "Lily's gone. Someone took her from my office while I was investigating the Neurovance records. I think they know what we're doing." There was a moment of stunned silence on the other end of the line. "I'm at the care facility now," Ethan finally said, his voice tight with controlled panic. "Maya, Olivia died 3 days ago. The staff told me a man claiming to be her brother came and made the arrangements. They showed me a photo. It was Hayes. He's been controlling access to her all along." "Ethan, I'm so sorry," Maya said, But we need to focus on finding Lily now. I've called Dawson for help. I'm turning around immediately, Ethan said. I'll be back in Boston as soon as I can. Maya, we need to consider that Hayes might have taken Lily to use as leverage against us. He knows we're investigating and now he has my daughter. As if on cue, Ethan's phone beeped with an incoming text from an unknown number. Dr. Mitchell, your curiosity has created a difficult situation. The child is safe for now. If you wish her to remain so, you will immediately cease your investigation and withdraw from consideration for Chief of Surgery. Further instructions to follow. Ethan felt cold fury rise within him. They had taken his daughter, the daughter he had only just found, and were using her as a pawn in their corrupt game. But they had made a critical mistake. They had given him proof of their involvement in the form of this text, and they had underestimated how far a father would go to protect his child. They've contacted me, he told Maya. They're holding Lily hostage and demanding I drop out of the Chief of Surgery selection. But they've made a mistake, Maya. Now we have proof of their direct involvement in a kidnapping. That's leverage we can use. What are you going to do? Maya asked. I'm going to get my daughter back, Ethan replied, his voice steel. And then I'm going to bring down everyone involved in this conspiracy, no matter what it takes. Ethan drove back to Boston with a singular focus that made the 4-hour journey feel like an eternity. His mind cycled through emotions, grief for Olivia, terror for Lily, and rage toward Hayes and his accomplices. The knowledge that his ex-wife had suffered and passed away without him ever knowing she had given birth to their child filled him with a profound sadness. But there was no time to process that grief. Lily needed him now. He maintained phone contact with Maya and Dawson throughout the drive. The private investigator had arrived at Mass General and was discreetly surveilling the key players, while simultaneously using his contacts to track Lily's possible whereabouts. Hayes is still in the hospital, Dawson reported. He's conducting business as usual, meetings, rounds, the works. He's too smart to do the dirty. Work himself. What about Blackwell and Richardson? Ethan asked. Dr. Blackwell is in surgery until late afternoon. Richardson left the hospital about an hour ago, claiming a family emergency. Follow her, Ethan instructed. She's the weak link. If anyone's going to make a mistake, it's her. Meanwhile, Maya had returned to her investigation, but now with a different approach. Instead of accessing the records directly, she was working through a back channel in the IT department, a computer technician who owed her a favor and could access the system logs without triggering alerts. I've got something, she told Ethan as he entered the city limits of Boston. 3 patient files from the Neurovance trial were completely overwritten 2 years ago, exactly 2 days after Olivia filed her complaint. The original data is gone, but the system retained metadata showing that the changes were authorized, using Hayes's credentials. That's evidence of tampering, but not necessarily of what the original data contained, Ethan pointed out. True, but I've also found something else. Remember those 6 patients who were removed from the trial due to unrelated complications? I've cross-referenced with hospital admission records. 5 of them were readmitted within 6 months with severe neurological symptoms similar to Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. 2 are deceased, 3 are in long-term care facilities. Ethan's hands tightened on the steering wheel. They were test subjects who had adverse reactions to the treatment, and instead of reporting the failures, Hayes and his team covered it up by removing them from the trial data. Exactly. And when Olivia discovered the discrepancy, they silenced her by making her another victim, Ethan finished, the horrible truth crystallizing in his mind. They deliberately exposed her to whatever caused those neurological symptoms in the trial patients. It's worse than that, Maya said, her voice shaking slightly. The IT tech found an email exchange between Hayes and Richardson from 2 years ago discussing a controlled exposure protocol for a potential security risk in medical records. They used coded language, but the timing matches Olivia's complaint and subsequent illness. Ethan felt physically ill. These people, his colleagues, medical professionals sworn to do no harm, had deliberately caused Olivia's terminal condition to protect their research fraud. And now, they had taken his daughter. "Has Dawson found any sign of Lily?" he asked. "Not yet. He's following Richardson now. She's driving to a residential area in Brookline." Ethan was about 30 minutes from Boston when his phone buzzed with another text from the unknown number. "Dr. Mitchell, we understand you're returning to Boston. This is wise. Come alone to the parking garage on level B2 at Boston General. Medical Arts Building at 7 p.m. Tell no one. The child will be released unharmed once you've signed a resignation letter and a confidentiality agreement. Any deviation from these instructions will have unfortunate consequences." Ethan forwarded the message to both Maya and Dawson. "They're getting nervous," he observed. "They want to resolve this quickly." "It's a trap," Dawson replied immediately. The Medical Arts Building garage is isolated at that hour, with minimal security cameras. They could do anything to you there. "I don't care if it's a trap," Ethan said firmly. "I need to get Lily back, but I won't be going in blind or unprepared." By the time Ethan reached Boston, Dawson had followed Dr. Richardson to a brownstone in Brookline owned by her sister. "There's activity inside, but I can't confirm if the girl is there," the investigator reported. "I've got a contact in the local PD running surveillance on the house, but we need more before we can involve the authorities officially." "Keep watching," Ethan instructed. "If you see any sign of Lily, let me know immediately." Ethan met Maya at a coffee shop near the hospital. She had brought printouts of the evidence she'd gathered. The metadata showing Hayes' alterations to the trial records, the readmission data for the patients who'd been removed from the study, and fragments of the email exchange discussing the controlled exposure protocol. "It's damning, but still circumstantial," she admitted. "Without Olivia's testimony or direct evidence linking them to whatever was done to her, it might not be enough to bring criminal charges." "I'm not thinking about criminal charges right now," Ethan said grimly. "I'm focused on getting Lily back. Safely. The rest can wait. What's your plan for the meeting?" "I'm going to give them exactly what they asked for, with a twist." Ethan outlined his strategy, and Maya listened with growing concern. "That's incredibly risky," she warned. "If they suspect anything." "They won't," Ethan assured her. "They're arrogant. They think they've won. That's their weakness." At 6:30 p.m., Ethan received a call from Dawson. "Movement at the Richardson location," the investigator reported. "Richardson just left with a child matching Lily's description. They're in a silver Audi sedan, heading toward a downtown." "Follow them," Ethan ordered. "I think they're bringing her to the meeting." As Ethan approached the Boston General Medical Arts Building, he felt a strange calm descend over him. The complex mix of emotions, grief, rage, fear, had distilled into a crystal-clear purpose: save Lily, expose the truth, protect the innocent. Whatever happened to him personally was secondary. He parked his car on level B3, one floor below the designated meeting spot, and took the stairs up. The garage was nearly empty at this hour, just a few cars belonging to medical staff working. Late shifts, the concrete structure amplified every sound: the distant hum of the ventilation system, the occasional drip of water from a leaking pipe, the echo of his own footsteps. Level B2 was dimly lit, with several overhead fluorescents flickering or burned out entirely. Ethan positioned himself near a support column that offered a partial view of the elevator and stairwell entrances. At precisely 7 p.m., the elevator doors opened and Dr. Jennifer Richardson emerged, holding Lily firmly by the shoulder. The girl looked frightened but unharmed, her eyes darting around the garage until they locked onto Ethan. "Dr. Mitchell," Richardson greeted him coolly. "Thank you for being punctual." "Where's Hayes?" Ethan asked, noting that Richardson seemed nervous, constantly glancing over her shoulder. "Dr. Hayes thought it best to maintain his distance from this unfortunate situation," Richardson replied. "I'm authorized to handle the exchange. You sign the documents and the child goes free." "Show me the papers," Ethan said, stepping forward. Richardson reached into her bag with her free hand and withdrew a folder, which she placed on the hood of a nearby car. "A letter of resignation, effective immediately, citing personal reasons. And a non-disclosure agreement, covering all aspects of the Neurovance trial and any speculations you might have about it." Ethan pretended to review the documents, buying time. "You know this won't end with my resignation," he said conversationally. Hayes falsified research data. People were harmed, killed even. That kind of truth has a way of coming out eventually. Richardson's composure slipped momentarily. You don't understand the importance of the work we're doing, she said defensively. The Neurovance protocol has the potential to revolutionize treatment for degenerative neurological conditions. Yes, there were setbacks, unexpected complications, but that's the nature of groundbreaking research. Setbacks? Ethan repeated incredulously. You call deliberately giving an innocent woman a fatal disease a setback? Richardson flinched. That wasn't supposed to happen. Olivia was only meant to experience mild, temporary symptoms, enough to discredit her claims about the trial data. Hayes assured us the exposure was calibrated, but her reaction was severe, unprecedented. You're admitting to assault, Richardson, possibly murder. I'm not admitting anything, she snapped. Just sign the papers and take the girl. Consider yourself lucky. Hayes wanted a more permanent solution for both of you. Ethan picked up the pen, making a show of reluctance. What happens after I sign? What guarantee do I have that you won't come after us again? You'll be a discredited surgeon who resigned under a cloud of suspicion. The girl will be a child with an unreliable story no one will believe. You're no threat to us once you sign. Ethan signed both documents with a flourish, then stepped back. Now let Lily go. Richardson hesitated, then released her grip on the girl's shoulder. Lily immediately ran to Ethan, who embraced her tightly. Are you okay? He whispered. Did they hurt you? I'm okay, Lily assured him. They just scared me. The lady said, you were in trouble and needed my help. Richardson gathered the signed documents, a look of relief crossing her face. This concludes our business, Dr. Mitchell. I suggest you leave Boston. Start fresh somewhere else. Forget everything that's happened here. I have one more question, Ethan said, still holding Lily protectively. Why did Hayes arrange for Olivia's medical care after she got sick? Why not just let her die immediately? Richardson seemed surprised by the question. Guilt, I suppose, or caution. A sudden death might have raised questions. This way, her decline appeared natural, medically explicable, and he could monitor her condition, ensure she wasn't communicating with anyone. Thank you for that clarification, Ethan said calmly. I wanted to make sure you implicated yourself fully before the recording ended. Richardson's face drained of color. Recording? What recording? Ethan reached into his pocket and withdrew a small digital recorder. Everything you've said in the last 10 minutes is now documented. Your admission about Olivia's exposure, Hayes's involvement, all of it. You can't, Richardson began, lunging for the recorder. I wouldn't, warned a voice from behind a nearby car. Frank Dawson stepped into view, his expression grim. That recording is already being transmitted to multiple secure locations, and Boston PD is on their way as we speak. Richardson's face contorted with panic. She turned to flee toward the elevator, only to find Maya standing there with two uniformed police officers. Dr. Jennifer Richardson, one officer announced, you're under arrest for kidnapping and conspiracy. You have the right to remain silent. As Auzau, Richardson was handcuffed and led away. Ethan knelt down to Lily's level. I'm so sorry you had to go through that, he said. But you're safe now, I promise. Lily's eyes were wide but remarkably steady. Are the bad doctors going to jail? Yes, Ethan assured her. They're going to jail. They can't hurt anyone else now. Within hours, the situation exploded beyond the confines of Mass General. Dr. Hayes was arrested while attempting to board a flight to Toronto. Dr. Blackwell, confronted with the evidence against her colleagues, quickly agreed to cooperate with authorities in exchange for leniency. The recording of Richardson's confession, combined with the documentation Maya had recovered, provided more than enough evidence for the district attorney to file serious charges: fraud, medical malpractice, kidnapping, and most gravely, deliberately causing Olivia's fatal illness. Lily remained by Ethan's side throughout the whirlwind of police statements and preliminary hearings. Child Protective Services initially attempted to place her in emergency foster care, but Ethan's DNA test results, confirming with 99.9% certainty that he was her biological father, gave him standing to request temporary custody. 3 days after the garage confrontation, Ethan sat in the office of Patricia Coleman, a family court judge known for her no-nonsense approach to custody cases. He had expected a battle, given the unusual circumstances, but Judge Coleman surprised him. "Dr. Mitchell," she said, reviewing the file before her, "this is certainly one of the more extraordinary cases to come across my desk. A father who didn't know he had a daughter until a week ago. A mother who concealed the child's existence and has now passed away. A child who has been effectively homeless for months, yet demonstrated remarkable resilience and intelligence." "Yes, Your Honor," Ethan agreed. "The circumstances are unusual, but my commitment to Lily is absolute." The judge studied him thoughtfully. "I've reviewed the DNA results confirming your paternity. I've also received glowing character references from your colleagues at Mass General, those not implicated in the scandal, of course. The court-appointed guardian ad litem reports that Lily is strongly bonded to you already and wishes to remain in your care." Ethan held his breath, waiting for the but that seemed inevitable. Instead, Judge Coleman smiled slightly. "Dr. Mitchell, family court typically prefers to place children with biological parents when possible, assuming they are fit and willing. You are clearly both. I'm granting you full legal and physical custody of Lily Foster, or Lily Mitchell, if you and she prefer. The formal adoption process will take some time to complete, but given the extraordinary circumstances, I see no reason to delay establishing your parental rights." "Thank you, Your Honor," Ethan said, his voice thick with emotion. "Don't thank me," the judge replied. "Thank your daughter. Her courage in seeking you out, in standing up to those who would harm you both, speaks volumes about her character and about the kind of father you can become for her." Outside the courthouse, Lily was waiting with Maya, who had become a steadfast friend to both of them during the crisis. When Ethan emerged with the custody papers in hand, Lily looked up at him questioningly. "It's official," he told her, kneeling down to her level. "Are you staying with me? For good?" Lily's face broke into a radiant smile, the first truly uninhibited expression of joy he had seen from her. She threw her arms around his neck, and Ethan felt something final click into place in his heart. The grief over Olivia would take time to process. The aftermath of the hospital scandal would continue to unfold for months. But in this moment, holding his daughter, Ethan knew with absolute certainty that his life had changed forever, and for the better. "What happens now?" Lily asked as they walked hand in hand toward the car. "Now we build a life together," Ethan told her. "We'll make the townhouse into a real home. You'll start school in the fall, and I'll be there for homework, for nightmares, for everything. Always. What about your job, the chief of surgery thing?" Ethan shook his head. "That doesn't matter anymore. I've taken a leave of absence from Mass General. When I go back to medicine, it will be on different terms." He hesitated, then added, "Actually, I've been thinking about starting a foundation in your mother's name, something focused on ethics in medical research and protecting whistleblowers who report misconduct." "Mom would like that," Lily said softly. "She always said that telling the truth was the most important thing, even when it's scary." "She was right," Ethan agreed. "And she raised an amazing daughter who's just as brave and principled as she was." That evening, as Ethan tucked Lily into bed in what was now officially her room, no longer the guest room, she asked a question that caught him off guard. "Dad?" The word still sounded new and wonderful to his ears. "Do you think Mom knew this would happen, that I would find you?" Ethan considered the question carefully. "I don't know," he admitted. "Your mother and I had our differences, but she was always incredibly perceptive. Maybe she sensed that someday, somehow, we would find our way to each other." Lily nodded, seemingly satisfied with this answer. "I think she did know. She kept your pictures and told me stories about you. Not sad stories, but good ones, about how you saved people and never gave up. I won't give up on you either," Ethan promised. "Never." As Lily drifted off to sleep, Ethan sat beside her bed, watching over the daughter he had almost never known. Through a series of improbable events, A hospital conspiracy, a child's determination, a damaged surgical instrument. They had found each other. And despite the painful circumstances that had brought them together, Ethan felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, helping Lily process her grief over Olivia, navigating the continuing legal aftermath of the Hayes scandal, building a life together from scratch. But for now, in the quiet of the evening, watching his daughter sleep peacefully for perhaps the first time in months, Ethan Mitchell knew that he had received the greatest gift possible, a second chance at family, at meaning, at love. 1 year. Later, the renovation of Ethan's Beacon Hill townhouse had transformed it from a sterile showcase into a vibrant home. Lily's room, once the impersonal guest suite, now exploded with color. Walls painted her favorite shade of teal, bookshelves overflowing with both medical textbooks and age-appropriate fiction, and a desk where she spent hours drawing intricate, anatomical sketches that both impressed and slightly concerned her third-grade teacher. On this particular Saturday morning, Ethan stood in the kitchen, attempting to perfect heart-shaped pancakes while Lily supervised with the critical eye of a surgical attending. "You flipped too early," she observed, perched on a stool at the counter. The bubbles weren't fully formed yet. "Your expertise is noted, Dr. Mitchell," Ethan replied with mock seriousness, adding the misshapen pancake to what he privately called the practice pile. The past year had been one of profound transformation for both of them. The scandal at Massachusetts General had sent shockwaves through the medical community nationwide. Dr. William Hayes was serving a 15-year sentence for his role in Olivia's illness and the subsequent cover-up. Jennifer Richardson had turned state's evidence in exchange for a reduced sentence, providing prosecutors with detailed accounts of the data falsification and the deliberate exposure of Olivia to an experimental neurotoxin that had triggered her fatal disease. Sarah Blackwell, facing less severe charges but still implicated in the fraud, had surrendered her medical license and was awaiting trial. For Ethan, the aftermath had initially been challenging professionally. Though he had been vindicated, indeed celebrated as a whistleblower, he had found it impossible to return to Mass General. The institution itself was undergoing a painful reckoning, with new leadership and stringent oversight of its research programs. Instead, Ethan had accepted a position at Boston Children's Hospital, where his surgical skills were put to use helping the most vulnerable patients. The more flexible schedule allowed him to be present for Lily in ways his previous career-focused life never would have permitted. But his most significant achievement was the establishment of the Olivia Foster Foundation for Medical Ethics and Accountability. Funded initially with his own savings and later supported by grants and donations, the foundation provided legal and financial support to healthcare whistleblowers and advocated for stronger protections against research fraud. Maya Rodriguez had joined the foundation as its research director, leveraging her expertise in pathology and data analysis to develop better systems for detecting statistical manipulation in clinical trials. Frank Dawson, the private investigator whose work had been instrumental in exposing the conspiracy, now headed the Foundation's investigative unit, training medical professionals to recognize and document evidence of misconduct. "Dad?" Lily's voice pulled Ethan from his thoughts. "You're burning that one." "Right, sorry." Ethan quickly rescued the pancake. "Big day today, guess I'm a little distracted." "Because of the ceremony?" Lily asked, reaching for the bottle of maple syrup, the real kind, imported from Vermont, which had become a household staple. "Partly," Ethan admitted. Today, the Olivia Foster Foundation would be presenting its first annual Integrity in Medicine Awards, honoring 3 healthcare professionals who had risked their careers to expose dangerous practices. But mostly because of the other thing. Lily's expression turned serious. "The adoption finalization." "Yes. Are you sure you're okay with changing your name?" "You don't have to, you know. Foster is a beautiful name with a connection to your mother." Lily considered this as she carefully poured syrup over her stack of pancakes, some heart-shaped, others resembling amoebas. "I think Mom would understand. She kept her connection to you a secret to protect your career, but now we don't need secrets anymore." Ethan marveled, as he often did, at his daughter's emotional intelligence and maturity. "No more secrets," he agreed. "Lily Mitchell it is, then." After breakfast, they prepared for the day's events. The adoption finalization was scheduled for 10 a.m. at the family court, with Judge Coleman presiding. The Integrity in Medicine ceremony would follow at 2 p.m. at the Foundation's headquarters in Cambridge. As Ethan helped Lily with the buttons on her dress, navy blue with white polka dots, chosen specifically for the occasion, he found himself reflecting on the extraordinary journey that had brought them together. From the moment she had shouted a warning to him in the hospital parking garage to this quiet morning ritual of getting dressed for a special day, their bond had grown in ways he could never have anticipated. "What are you thinking about, Lily?" asked, noticing his contemplative expression. "About how lucky I am," Ethan replied honestly. "About how different my life would be if you hadn't found me that day." Lily smiled. "Mom always said we make our own luck by being brave and doing the right thing." "Your mother was very wise," Ethan said softly. The adoption ceremony was brief but emotionally charged. Judge Coleman, who had followed their case with personal interest, spoke about the extraordinary circumstances that had brought father and daughter together and the remarkable resilience both had shown in the face of adversity. "The court hereby confirms the adoption of Lily Foster by her biological father, Ethan Mitchell, and approves her legal name change to Lily Mitchell," the judge declared. While most adoptions represent the creation of a new family bond, this one celebrates the recognition of a bond that has existed biologically from the beginning, but has grown through choice, courage, and love into something even stronger. After Vierge, the ceremony, they met Maya and Frank for lunch at Lily's favorite restaurant, a casual cafe near the Boston Common that served what she insisted were the world's best grilled cheese sandwiches. The conversation flowed easily among the four of them, who had become an unlikely but fiercely loyal chosen family in the wake of the hospital scandal. "The Foundation received another whistleblower report yesterday," Maya informed Ethan quietly, while Lily was distracted by Frank's elaborate napkin-folding demonstration. "A nurse at New England Medical Center, similar pattern, data manipulation in a clinical trial, pressure to keep quiet." "Have you verified the claims?" Ethan asked. "Preliminary. Investigation suggests they're credible. The pharmaceutical company involved has a history of questionable research practices." "We'll discuss it on Monday," Ethan decided. "Today is for celebration, not new battles." The Integrity in Medicine ceremony that afternoon was attended by healthcare professionals, patient advocates, and medical ethicists from across the country. The Foundation's headquarters, a renovated historic building overlooking the Charles River, hummed with conversation and purpose as attendees networked and shared experiences. As Ethan took the podium to deliver the keynote address, he saw Lily sitting in the front row between Maya and Frank, her expression attentive and proud. The sight gave him strength. "1 year ago," he began, "I stood at a crossroads in my career. I had spent 15 years pursuing excellence in surgery, measuring success in technical precision, academic publications, and professional advancement. I believed I was serving my patients by becoming the best surgeon possible, even at the cost of personal connections and a balanced life." He paused, surveying the audience. Then a 7-year-old girl stopped me in a parking garage and changed everything. She warned me of immediate danger, a sabotaged surgical instrument that could have cost a patient's life and ended my career. But more importantly, she revealed a deeper, more insidious danger, the corruption of medical research by those who placed profit and prestige above patient safety and scientific integrity. Ethan continued, describing the systematic fraud that had been uncovered at Mass General and the broader implications for medical research oversight. He spoke about Olivia, her courage in attempting to expose the truth, the terrible price she had paid, and her posthumous vindication. The Olivia Foster Foundation exists because one medical records specialist refused to look the other way when she discovered discrepancies in clinical trial data. She knew that false research doesn't just undermine scientific integrity, it endangers lives, Today we honor 3 healthcare professionals who demonstrated that same moral courage. The recipients of the Integrity in Medicine Awards included a hospital pharmacist who had exposed dangerous medication administration protocols, a research assistant who had documented falsified data in a multi-center drug trial, and a surgical resident who had reported systematic violations of informed consent procedures. As the ceremony concluded, Ethan invited Lily to join him at the podium for the closing remarks. She approached with confidence, standing tall beside her father as he addressed the audience one final time. My daughter Lily and I have learned firsthand that truth can be costly, but silence costs even more. The foundation that bears her, Mother's Name is committed to creating a healthcare system where ethical concerns can be raised without fear of retaliation, where research integrity is prioritized above expediency, and where patients can trust that their care is based on honest science. Lily stepped forward, her clear voice carrying throughout the room. My mom always told me that being brave isn't about not being scared. It's about doing the right thing even when you are scared. The people getting awards today were really brave. And we need more brave people to make hospitals and medicine better for everyone. The spontaneous standing ovation that followed brought tears to Ethan's eyes. As he and Lily left the stage hand in hand, he felt a profound sense of rightness, as though all the disparate threads of his life had finally woven themselves into a coherent, meaningful pattern. Later that evening, after the ceremonies and celebrations were over, Ethan and Lily walked along the Charles River, watching the sunset paint the Boston skyline in shades of gold and pink. Lily skipped ahead occasionally, collecting interesting pebbles and examining them with scientific curiosity before either pocketing the special ones or tossing the others back toward the water. "Dad," she called, running back to him with something cupped in her hands. "Look what I found." She opened her palms to reveal a small heart-shaped stone, worn smooth by the river. Its surface was veined with quartz that caught the fading sunlight. "It's beautiful," Ethan said, examining the stone. "Quite rare to find one so perfectly shaped." "I think Mom sent it," Lily said, with the simple certainty of childhood. "To let us know she's happy about today." Ethan felt his throat tighten with emotion. "That's a lovely thought. Can we go visit her soon? I want to tell her about the foundation and show her my school projects." "Of course," Ethan promised. They had established a tradition of monthly visits to Olivia's grave in a peaceful cemetery outside Burlington. Ethan had ensured she received a proper burial and a dignified memorial stone after the truth about her illness had been revealed. "I think she would be really proud of us," Lily continued, pocketing the heart-shaped stone. "Not just about the foundation and the awards and stuff, but about how we're a family now." "I think you're right," Ethan agreed, taking her hand as they continued their walk. "Your mother made the most difficult choice imaginable when she kept you a secret from me. She thought she was protecting my career, my future. What she couldn't have known was that you, Lily, were always meant to be the most important part of that future." As they walked home in the gathering dusk, Ethan reflected on the extraordinary series of events that had transformed his life. A chance encounter in a parking garage, a warning shouted by a desperate child, a damaged surgical instrument discovered just in time, each moment a pivot point, a line between what was and what could be. The townhouse was warm and welcoming when they returned, no longer the sterile showcase it had once been, but a true home filled with photographs, children's artwork, and the comfortable clutter of daily life. Lily immediately headed for the kitchen to place her heart-shaped stone in the special collection box she kept on the windowsill, a growing museum of treasures that marked significant moments in their life together. Ethan watched her from the doorway, struck again by how completely this child had changed his world. Before Lily, he had measured success in professional achievements, publications, and accolades. Now he measured it in smaller, more profound moments, a perfectly executed heart-shaped pancake, an evening walk by the river, the sound of his daughter's laughter echoing through rooms that had once been silent. "What should we do tomorrow?" Lily asked as she arranged her new stone alongside its companions. "It's Sunday and you don't have to work." "Whatever you want," Ethan told her. "The whole day is ours." Lily considered this seriously. Could we go to the Museum of Science? And then maybe get ice cream at that place with the weird flavors? Absolutely, Ethan agreed. Science and ice cream sounds like the perfect day. Later, after Lily had gone to bed, Ethan sat in his study, reviewing applications for the Foundation's Whistleblower Support Program. The work was challenging but deeply satisfying, a way to honor Olivia's memory and to ensure that others who stood up for truth would not face the isolation and retaliation she had experienced. His phone buzzed with a text from Maya. Final count from today's ceremony, 1.2 million in new donations. The foundation is growing. Olivia would be proud. Ethan smiled, typing back, she would be prouder of Lily, we all would. He set the phone down and picked up a framed photograph on his desk, a picture of Lily at her new school, beaming in front of a science fair project that had won first place. Beside it was an older photo of Olivia that he had discovered among Lily's belongings, showing her as she had been before her illness, vibrant, intelligent, determined. These two faces, one from his past, one his future, represented the unexpected journey that had brought him to this moment. A journey that had begun with a desperate warning in a hospital parking garage and had led through pain and revelation and healing to a life he could never have imagined, but now couldn't imagine living without. Ethan Mitchell, surgeon, father, advocate, closed the file he'd been reviewing and turned out the light in his study. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new battles for medical ethics and accountability, new moments of discovery with his remarkable daughter. But tonight, in the quiet of their home, he allowed himself to simply be grateful for the warning that had saved not just his career, not just his integrity, but his very soul. The girl who had shouted, "Don't go into the hospital, they're going to set you up," had given him far more than a timely warning. She had given him a second chance at life itself, a life now rich with purpose, connection, and love. And that, Ethan reflected, as he checked on his sleeping